Hi, I'm Rick Reynolds, founder and president of Affair Recovery. And today I want to talk about something that's not so helpful in the recovery process. There's a newsletter in the library, in fact it's this week's newsletter, called Healing After an Affair, What Doesn't Work? And we discuss a survey done several years ago where participants at Affair Recovery identified the actions they took that weren't so helpful. They discussed topics such as tried to manage my mate's recovery, blamed myself for their failure and tried to become somebody I'm not, initially believed my mate, which caused me then to minimize the extent of the problem, used rage and anger to transmit my pain, and other people, like from the wayward spouse, they had their things that weren't so helpful, such as dragging the truth out, being defensive. If you haven't, I would suggest reading that particular newsletter just to see what others, found didn't help, because the whole goal of this thing is to try to recover and to get through this and to find a new life of meaning and purpose. And you can avoid the mistakes that other people made. But today I want to talk about something that came to mind as I was just considering this topic, and that's the subject of blame. At EMS Weekend, which we have one coming up this coming weekend, one of the things I do in the small group setting as people tell their stories is I listen for how much personal responsibility they take for what's happening and how much they blame their mate for their behavior. And I'm talking about both the betrayed and the wayward spouse. And it's sad to me whenever someone describes themselves as a victim, ultimately doing what they did because of what their mate did. Explaining why I acted and reacted as I did by blaming someone else, the problem with that is it leaves me forever the victim. It's an external locus of control. In my opinion, the last thing you want to do in recovery is place your recovery in somebody else's hands where you're dependent on what they do for your reactions. Again, whether it's I'm blaming someone for why I acted out, or whether it's just my own inability to forgive or my own ability to find peace or joy. It's like if I make my mate responsible, again now for my safety, and they're not doing the right thing and I can't be safe, that's an external locus of control. And it's really hard to move forward if your mate isn't spot on perfect, and oftentimes, as we say in recovery work, it's really progress, not perfection. And the solution to blame, especially blaming someone else for my actions, is really personal responsibility. I hope that we can help people take personal responsibility not only for their actions, but even for their own safety, so that you can control your life or have a sense of, or be in control of your life rather than always being dependent on external circumstances. We can rise above and beyond that stuff. Another way that I see blame playing out is what I call self-blame, or self-hatred might be another way of saying that. It's a piece of shame. I have self-hatred because I've had an affair, or I've been cheated on, or I'll have this goal to save the marriage, but I don't necessarily do the personal work necessary to get to what's at the core of my own self-hatred. I fail to take personal responsibility to do something about it. You see, I think that people can use self-blame and self-hatred, and they stay right there. It's not like they, again, take personal responsibility to change. They just keep blaming themselves and beating themselves up. Self-hatred doesn't help you move forward. Why would your mate even want to be with someone who's filled with self-loathing and self-contempt? That's not the type of person you want to hang with. It's going to make you feel good about yourself. What I've kind of thought through the years is that growth isn't thinking less of yourself, that whole self-hatred, but rather it's thinking of yourself less. In my mind, in our own personal responsibility, in our own self-growth, it's really humility that allows us to find compassion both for self and for others without a need to blame. but it's owning my life and doing something about it so I can find a life. So I hope you'll look at ways that you can stop blaming. How much do you blame someone else for what's going on, and begin to look at yourself and how can I take responsibility for me and make my own safety my responsibility? How can I heal? And how do I get at the core of what I loathe within myself so that I can become the person maybe I was meant to be? To healing.